This is absolutely Essendon. It's our round 24 match review. Bombers versus the Pies. We've gone down by 70 points. It was the final game for Waller and Flipper. And boy, did we commemmorate it.
We sure did.
Did we send them off in style?
Did we? Chauffeur driven out of the ground, weren't they? Are we doing the review? That game was like about 7 days ago now, wasn't it? Was it?
No. We are a little bit late. Apologies if
we've been celebrating. Have we had our Mad Monday yet?
We should do a Mad Monday. We really should do a Mad Monday.
I'll come dressed as a footballer, unlike our Essendon players.
Well, they did dress as footballers.
True.
Well, they dressed in that seatbelt shirt, which...
Oh, God, what was that all about?
That really held us back.
Because it certainly was a car crash, wasn't it?
So
what was that seatbelt all about?
Well, I don't know. It was some cause about... Surely people wear their seatbelts. Is there anyone not wearing...
You get fined if you don't. Right.
I mean, is anyone...
Why don't they just wear... You'll be fined if you don't wear a seatbelt. Make it less subtle.
Right.
Anyway, well,
I don't know, because it really held us back. It really did.
Stupid.
It was a bitter, sour, most unsavoury end to the season.
Yes,
we were looking for glimmers of hope. We were just looking for something to hold on to over the very long off-season. But we weren't given much.
No,
It looked like a branch. It was a twig.
A branch?
I like to go up market with some
branch, I think you mean.
All right.
We're not recording this from Surrey in England. This is suburban Melbourne, so you can say branch.
I don't know why some words I just defer to.
You're a very well educated young man.
No, I'm actually not. I just went to a state school, but
that explains a few things.
Maybe it's covering up.
You'd never get a game at Essendon if you went to state schools, that's for sure.
Oh, really? They only want
well-educated, well-spoken young private school boys.
And therein lies the problem.
And we will come to that. I think we will touch on that later on.
But warning, if you've made it this far, I don't know where this episode is going to go. I mean, I've got the computer here, but really we're just reusing the notes from last week, which still apply. Words like embarrassing.
This is from the GWS
Yeah, exactly.
game.
I just left it.
These are our running notes from the GWS game.
It's the same thing. Last week I wrote, what a tough gig for the commentators, because, you got to make it seem like there's a match going on, but there really isn't.
No match. No, there was certainly no match. All right, well, look, we are going to talk about the Collingwood game. I'm going to do my best to try and remember it.
Right, if you can. But I think, like the GWS, within 2 minutes, you had a bit of a feel. It was all over. Yeah. You had a bit of a feel.
You could see it. And unfortunately, it was really just rinse and repeat with the Bombers against the Pies on Friday night. Now, this is a team, bearing in mind that we were leading by 5 goals at three-quarter time on Anzac Day.
We were.
Sure, we lost the game. But we certainly looked a hell of a better side back then than we did in round 24 of this season.
We did indeed. It's been a monumental tectonic shift since then.
Okay, so that's like an earthquake, is it? Or
I was sort of
everything's collapsed.
Yes, you're right. Yes, okay.
It's been horrible.
It was that, and but we were doing things like tackling, contested possession, that sort of stuff was going on back then. That's sort of been a distant memory, unfortunately.
Yes, well, I noticed a few of our guys were doing crochet in the centre square at the MCG on last Friday.
It's a nice relaxing pastime.
Just chilling out.
Right.
Not laying a nasty finger on the opposition. Why would you? And that's really the only takeout from that game I've got. I know there's a lot to dissect, and I think Brad Scott said a bit after the game, but honestly, the problem with our side is they just have a shit attitude. And there's talent, there's skill in our side. I know we've got some missing links in the list, and we will come to that as well.
Yes.
And talk about that and go into some great detail on that later on in this episode and in future episodes.
Yeah, let me write that.
There was just a clear lack of effort, of desire, commitment. And I just, for the life of me, don't know where this has come from. And I know Brad Scott said, look, and he was a little more candid than he has been throughout the year in saying things like, we just don't have the depth
Yeah.
to cover injuries.
Yes.
That became very clear as the season's worn on.
Yes.
But even so, that doesn't explain away a 126-point loss and then a 70-odd point loss and
Yeah.
only kicking 3 goals in a game.
Yeah.
There's something fundamentally wrong, and I just honestly can't put my finger on it. It's
No.
not one thing, but there's something not working at this football team at the moment.
Yeah.
And the players have switched off. They were
Yeah.
entirely disinterested, and they played that way.
Yeah. Now, I mean, there was some mention that, of course, in the first quarter they kicked 49 points, where we kicked a couple, 2 or 3 points. And then, but if you extrapolate that out, then, they should have been kicking 180, 200 points. They got to 101. And, some people putting their positive hat on saying, well, we kind of, we're a bit more competitive. But come on.
We weren't. No, we weren't.
Come on.
That's not true.
I
They
totally
put the
agree.
cue back in the rack.
Mate, they've
for
got
sure.
finals to play.
Yeah.
They've got the serious
For
business.
sure.
Why would you muck around with that?
I don't
But
know
even
when.
with that.
When did Jamie Elliott come off with he had an injury sometime during
Yeah.
the game, and I just
Yeah.
thought at that time, gee, they don't want to be losing players to injuries,
No.
So
But there are people like Ginnivan, who's been struggling to get a game, just come on and just kick 3 goals, as we did, just play people into form.
yeah. Well, I mean, Ginnivan, people were laughing at the idea of us chasing him. But he's exactly the type of player we could do with.
Honestly,
But-
we'd be blessed.
But to suggest
blessed.
that we fought our way back into that game
No,
is just
no,
delusional
no.
because there's no question that Collingwood had done enough by about the 10-minute mark of the second quarter.
It was over then.
I mean, I'm sure the coach would said, okay, they hold up these signs like all chips in and hold Texas Hold'em. The sign that went up there was a sun deck.
Was
a
it?
sun chair.
Yeah.
Relax, lie
yeah,
down, don't
yeah.
hurt yourself. And that's
Cigar
how they play.
image.
A picture of a cigar, exactly.
Yes, right.
Just chill out, don't push
Yeah.
it too hard because they've got to play finals. And why would you want to, wreck a couple of guys before going into the final? So I think that's a joke. If people really believe we fought our way back into that. We fought our way back with, 3 goals? And the incredible thing?
Yeah.
66% of our goals
Were kicked by.
the weed.
Oh, he's back.
Never again shall I doubt him. So
Hey, no weed, no Essendon. Have you
It
noticed?
seems to be. Yeah, I mean, hey, when was he dropped from the side?
When we started losing.
There you
That's
go.
diabolical.
There you go. So the weed.
Oh,
All right,
God.
so
I don't know what to
mess.
make
What a mess.
of that. But you know what was embarrassing over the weekend? I mean, you have people on SEN like Luke Hodge flat out referring to Essendon as witches' hats.
Did he really?
He said, yes, Collingwood did well. Yes, they found form again, but you can't read too much into it because they were playing witches' hats last night.
Yeah.
Like that just hurts so much. Like
That's a big statement for a former player to make.
Because
about
generally
other
they don't.
teams.
They
No, they
don't,
wouldn't, because that's insulting. And,
it's highly insulting.
and you'd be careful using descriptions like that when you're in the industry, you're mixing with those players. You'd get yourself a pretty nasty reputation if you were labelling people witches' hats without having absolute justification for it. And by gosh, he was fully justified in saying it. And
Yes.
I hope that the Essendon boys, are hearing those comments and are feeling sick in the stomach, which is, I think, a few of them alluded to after the game.
Yeah.
And I think the coach as well mentioned
Yes.
that there was a few who had a, pretty bad feeling about themselves following the collapse towards the end of this season. So, maybe Luke Hodges is absolutely right on the money there. They were witches' hats.
But are you saying in the change rooms that things?
Yeah, well, this is what's being reported, that there was an almighty shouting match that took place in the Essendon change rooms after the game, and the players were yelling at each other pretty ferociously, and it could be heard from outside. And then post-game, Zach Merritt even said to the media that, the emotions were pretty raw immediately following the game. So, I think, and I'm very pleased to hear it if that's true.
Yeah, mate, if that's true,
Yeah.
that's because do you know the last time I heard that was Carlton's loss against us when things switched after that. It's like a Hollywood movie called The Switch, and we're in Bizarro world, and they're in the real world, and that was that was when I last heard about it. And there was, Luke Sayers coming out, the president, and Brian Cook. And, of course, it was all about Michael Voss back then. But, defending his position and, talking about that, the club was going to be okay. It was just a slump. Well, my God, haven't they turned that around? So if it's a shame it's the end of the year.
Well, of course. They had time to actually...
They did correct it. Steer the ship.
Produce the results that mattered after their moment of hell. But unfortunately for us, if our players are having a come to Jesus moment, and all due respect to our Christian friends out there and non-Christians, we're all equal. But if they did have that come to Jesus moment, they're not going to be able to show it until late March next year, are they? And that brings us to probably the point about what happens now.
Yeah.
And Brad Scott was talking a little bit about that in his press conference.
Yeah, he was. So, I mean, he mentioned, because the issue is fitness was mentioned, he says it's not fitness, which is interesting because I could have sworn a few weeks ago he sort of alluded to that. But anyway, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. And so he thinks it was more about being an AFL professional player, professionalism. And so he's talking about things like when you're not at training, the off season he mentioned as well, which was because he sort of came in.
That's not the pre-season, is it?
No, that's right. No. I didn't know there was a difference.
Yeah.
But
that's the time when they're actually away from the club, out of the club's direct control.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know what exactly is. Apparently, there was some end of season trip last year to Ibiza. Is that where they speak with the lisp over there in that part of Spain?
Yeah.
Or is it Barcelona?
No, well, the Z and the C's are pronounced with a lisp.
Yeah.
So Ibiza is correct.
Right. So I said it the right way.
You did.
Ibiza.
Si.
Yeah. Do you know people only did that because there was a king in Spain that had a lisp?
Apparently.
And so no. People, to make him not feel bad, they made the whole population speak with a lisp, and that's how it all started.
Oh, crikey.
Talk about power.
Imagine if Scott Morrison had a lisp.
¿Dónde está la farmacia? Who had a lisp?
Scott Morrison.
Oh, yes. Okay, so sorry. So apparently some of them sort of came in. There were some stragglers to pre-season last year. Brad Scott wasn't
partying too hard, probably. But I heard they had the best pre-season or the hardest pre-season for many a year.
Yeah.
So whether they'd partied in Ibiza or anywhere for that matter, surely though the idea of it is that the pre-season will address the spectrum of fitness levels for every player in the squad. Some people just are going to be naturally fitter than others, and so on and so forth. But
if I was cynical, I would say you want to make sure your membership sales get off to a solid start.
Sure.
What are you going to say? Are you going to say you had a soft pre-season or you've had the hardest pre-season?
Well, I guess if you're Brad Scott, you're going to want to say that for your own stature and standing, wouldn't you? I've driven them harder than any other coach.
New sheriff in town.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
So really, I guess getting back to the point he was referring to, if I'm not mistaken, the younger players too.
Yeah.
Right, not the senior players, but I would have thought the obvious candidate for that attack, if you can call it that, would have been a certain number 25, who comes back from his off-season inevitably with some extra skin folds. So
yes, he does.
I think the senior players have got to be held accountable as well, and it's not just about the young guys.
I don't know, what sort of activities would they be doing that you wouldn't want, that you'd cross off the list if you were the coach? Too much
young
Netflix?
Kids today?
Netflix?
Yeah, it's
Roblox,
video games, and they're not doing stuff.
Maybe they're going to the nightclub.
They need to hang out with Jordan De Goey. That's what they need to do.
He
seems to have pretty decent off seasons because boy, he was spectacular against us.
Yeah, well, this is the point.
Wow, wouldn't we love a player like him?
We really would.
Can I ask you a question? I know this is a stupid thing to say because it's a horrible generalisation, but do tattoos equate to footballing prowess? Because if I look at that Collingwood side and other sides, it just seems to me the guys with all the tats, not universally, but a lot of them, are pretty decent. Dusty Martin springs to mind, and on and on.
Oh, man, no, gosh. I mean, there's so many.
Libba?
Yes, his disposals shot up 32%.
He's got every season of The Simpsons tattooed on his arm.
Once he got that, there does seem to be some correlation.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
You look at the Collingwood players like Elliott and De Goey and Dane Swan back in the day. Why can't we just send all our guys down to the Moonee Ponds Puckle Street tattoo parlour?
Get a bit of
get pictures of Terry Danaher on their arms, or
exactly.
John Coleman or something like that.
Is that
because
what you'd get?
we've got too many. Very well-spoken young private school boys in our side. I think we need a few mongrel dogs.
A bit of mongrel, Well, we have mentioned that before.
Yeah.
We do. We could do with a bit of mongrel.
They're too nice.
So it will be interesting to see then his approach and what rules are imposed coming into next year, because they've got plenty of time now to work on it, all the time in the world. But I was watching Brad Scott in that presser, and I was thinking, there was a part of me that felt like he was happy to let the house burn down.
That's a serious accusation to level at a football coach.
No. Oh, easy. No, but maybe even subconsciously.
You're saying
it was like
he was tanking?
No.
You're just saying he's happy to lose.
Yeah. He's not heartbroken by these two thumpings that we got. Deep down, I just got
what's the point you're trying to make, though?
Because if you're going to clear out the house...
Oh, so you're saying he's going to leverage off that now and force the changes?
Well, last year you knew, you've just arrived.
Yeah.
You can't push your weight around that much to people that have, say, been around 25 years or longer. Now, you played a season, you haven't had much in the way of backups with your system over personnel theory, where anyone can just sort of step in and replace a missing player. I'm just suggesting, maybe.
So there's two things that come to mind from that. One is let's assume that was the case. He's basically saying, I don't have the players, and he may be right, and I don't have the strength and conditioning.
That correct?
The level.
I don't have the high performance management.
That's all facilities that requires.
Yes.
And these losses, as horrible as they have been, were worth it if it delivers an outcome for him now to improve those two key elements of the operation.
Why didn't I say it like that?
I don't know, but I mean, it's an interesting theory, because I would have thought that it's a win-loss game that these guys are in, right? A coach is only as good as his win-loss ratio.
Yeah, but in your first year, maybe you've got a little bit of... He's giving himself
he may have
scope.
He may have that commitment from the club to say, under no circumstances should you fear the boot.
Yeah.
And you're going to be safe. And I hope he is, and there's no reason why he shouldn't be, because I think... we've seen more positives from Brad Scott than negatives this year, as much as sometimes I've questioned his game plan. But I think the game plan, it was probably more a case of the players just couldn't implement it.
Yes.
More than anything else.
Okay, so tell me, what part of the whole picture is this? And we've seen this over the last few weeks, again on Friday night multiple times. Essendon get possession of the ball just before the centre square.
Yeah.
Merritt, who knows what to do with the ball, or anyone, and they sweep left, no options there. Sweep right, still no options. Left, until eventually someone runs in and just gets his hands on the ball, and hasn't created a massive amount of space, and that's been happening now for the last few weeks.
Yeah.
What is that? Is that fitness? Is it a game plan? Is it have things not been explained on the whiteboard? What is that? Because at the end of the year, that should be drilled in. Everyone knows their role, what they should be doing in that situation. But for a captain to not have any options, what's going on?
I don't know. And it's a very, very good observation and question, because, that wasn't how they played when they were winning games. Yeah, when they were winning games, they were moving the ball quickly. There were players running.
Not afraid to move through the centre.
Spreading, opening up the ground, offering multiple leads and opportunities for the ball carrier to direct the ball towards a different player or certain players. That just stopped in the last 4 or 5 weeks. And, it's just static. There was just no run.
No.
And the players were not running back. They were moving. If you looked at some points in that game, we didn't have a player, not only in our defensive half, but outside of the forward 50, our forward. It was like all of our team was inside the forward 50. So when the ball came out, it was, again, Collingwood just ran through our defence. And
Yeah.
and then there was no one forward of the 50 to take the ball when we were moving into attack. It was
Yeah.
like it just all bunched into the middle of wherever, but there was no clear or obvious pathway to goal. So, yeah, I mean, that could be a part of a game plan issue. But, again, I tend to think that that's just the way that it's just fallen apart, and the lack of effort and the lack of, desire by our guys. And I'm sorry to say it, but they just looked like they didn't give a shit.
So when you combine that with, unfortunately, the skills didn't look so great on Friday night either.
But that could also be an effort thing. Because if you're just lazy, you don't care, you're not going to take the second or, the half a second just to steady and think about what you're doing. You say, someone else can deal with this. I don't care.
Yeah.
And the amount of handballing that just went to players in the wrong position and
But
down at their feet, the ball dropping short.
Definitely.
It was just embarrassing.
There was a lot of that. And it was, again, the same thing over the last few weeks where they're working the ball out, handball to handball, just gradually in a worse position each time until that team just figures it out.
Yeah.
Turnover, goal.
It was just a spiral downwards every time, because the more you possess the ball, the higher the percentage chance of you losing it or disposing of it ineffectively will happen. The quick, fast movement of the ball is always going to be the better option. And look, let's not labour the point, but I'm sure there's guys and girls out in our audience who understand the tactics of modern football.
Not as many girls. Not as many girls.
No, but there would be a couple, and I've seen in a couple of our comments certainly making comments about the game plan and things. So, but I'm sure there are people that know better than we do what this all means, and I'd really love to hear comments from our viewers to sort of try and tell us what the hell went wrong. Where did it fall down? Why did it fall down? It's not just injuries. There's got to be other reasons. So so I guess that sort of that leaves a pretty horrible taste in the mouth as a part of the wrapping up of the end of the year. But what more can you say about the game than that? It was just a really, really disappointing and embarrassing for us supporters who've stood by this club for so long to have to deal with this again. And I think you mentioned you were at the game with a young boy who's not an Essendon supporter.
Yes.
What was he, 11 years old?
My nephew, My nephew, yes. He's 11 now. He goes for Geelong.
Yep.
So he was impartial. Now, of course, at 11 years of age and you go for Geelong, he's known nothing but good times.
Yeah.
But he was just like watching me watch the game, just going, is this what it's like to be an Essendon supporter?
So at 11, he could see the horror of being an Essendon supporter. Do you want to do a shout out to him?
The joyless existence.
Say hello to him.
Nicholas. Nicholas. Yeah. Don't get too smart.
Come
kid,
across to the dark side.
It will turn. I don't know when. I don't know how old I'll be, but it will turn, kid. So don't get too cocky.
Yeah. Well, look, I feel very jealous of young Nicholas because 11-year-old, and he's seen the great teams that Geelong have produced. My son is 25.
Yeah.
So he was alive when we won the last premiership, but barely aware of it.
Yeah.
And I did the wrong thing, and I convinced him to become an Essendon supporter, and he's never forgiven me. And I'll be honest, on Friday night at that game, he was sitting next to me, and he just turned to me at halftime and said, "Dad, I'm sorry. I'm done with this team. I'm done with it. I'm going. I'm not going to put myself through this for another minute." So
really,
to David Barham out there, and if you're watching, and other board members who I know do watch, just note that you're going to lose these kids. They're just going to start dropping off. There's only so many that we can keep in the, in the fold. But we're going to lose a generation of supporters if we as a football club don't do something and show some ambition. And for the love of God, just please get rid of Dodoro. It's just a simple pink slip on his desk on a Friday afternoon around 4 o'clock. I always think's the best time.
Do you?
And
just in the weekend.
And I'm not saying this to be nasty to the guy. I'm just simply saying, look, we've got to do something. You've been around for this entire period and it hasn't worked. You've had some wins, you've had some losses, but we really want to just try something new.
Yeah.
So for no other reason, do that. And then you might keep us interested for another year and maybe some of the young kids will hold on.
Mate, do you know what? I think there's been a lot of people on social media. He might decide himself, you know what?
No,
I
he
think
won't.
For the benefit of the club...
Fall on his sword?
Yes. For the benefit of the
Jesus,
club...
mate, hell, you told me about a social media post listing the length of service for football club recruitment managers.
Yes, I did. Yes.
And by the way, I do want to
interesting-
stress, none of this is personal, okay?
Yes, no,
this is purely
no.
amateur observation.
We are about the highest good for the club.
Yeah.
What is the highest good? And honestly, that's what this is all about. So yes, I concur. But yeah, it was a very interesting tweet, and definitely he wins the award for the longest tenure back to 1997.
Who was second?
I think the guy at the Swans.
Kenny Beatson.
Yeah, he was
whatever his name is.
2005. And in that time, have they won 2 premierships?
But they've only missed 2 years of the finals.
Oh my God! And they've never really had a rebuild. They're just always there.
Yeah,
just
they've been
annoyingly
arguably one of the most successful clubs.
Yeah,
and they keep digging up these diamonds in the rough.
Yeah,
I mean Eric Goulden comes to mind.
I mean, some people on our comment section, our last video said they are not renewing their membership until he goes. That's how some people feel.
Look, it may not make a difference, but at least you're doing something.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Need to. Yeah, well, I mean, it brings up the issue of this game was apparently sold out, right? The game against the Pies on Friday night, right? So that's 95,000 tickets, whatever it is.
Yeah,
75,
maybe at 90,000.
75,000 people showed up. So I would have thought that 15,000 deficit was mainly, if I were to venture a guess,
Bomber fans.
Bomber
it was
fans
our home game.
Who just said, screw it, I don't want to go. Now, you and I stayed until the bitter end, but we have Essendonitis. We have issues like
we've got professional need to take notes and prepare for the big review.
Well, people aren't hanging on our details.
I noticed you were being ambushed by autograph hunters at the MCG as well.
There was people, but again, like there were some young guys who had spotted this channel and said hello. But
they were screaming like they were at a Beatles concert when they saw you.
I felt for them. Like I'm looking at this bunch of guys, good guys, early to mid-20s.
How old were they? Oh, okay.
Early to mid-20s. They've seen nothing, man.
Yeah.
They've seen nothing.
Do you want to send a shout out to your friends?
Yes,
out there?
Well, thank you again for
Did you
watching.
get a name?
If you were, no, I didn't. Yeah, if you were the guys that said hello,
I'm surprised you even spoke.
I should have, but here's my point. Let's come back to a point.
All right.
Are Essendon fans justified in the no-show?
Well,
you've organised tickets.
No.
You've organised tickets, but you know that there's going to be a caning. Are they justified?
It's not about justification. I mean, you have the right to not come if you don't want to come. I don't agree with what Richmond supporters in the past have done when they sent a truckload of chicken manure to the Punt Road head office.
But that's not bad, actually.
It's not bad, actually. I'm not sure.
What can we organise?
Chicken manure.
What can we...
I'm not sure, but
what were they saying?
Just some dirt from the hangar training fields would be equally shit. But I don't think there's any point in doing that. But the reality is, and I'll keep going back to Adrian Dodoro. Okay, I think he has something to answer for in the lack of balance in our list. I'm not blaming him for picking one wrong guy here and there. Every club does that, but we have no list balance, and we've talked about it before, so I'm not going to go over it again, but our list is very, very poorly balanced. We have insufficient numbers of tall forwards. We've got short defenders. We've got midget midfielders, and on and on. Now, that you can maybe miss a pick or a key player in the draft every now and then, and you think, we should have selected that guy. But that's fine. But to not have, after 20-odd years in the job, a clear understanding of what you need to put together a successful AFL football team. I noticed that we let go of 3 guys as of today when we're recording this. The 3 players have been delisted. It was Cian McBride, the young Irishman, Alistair Lord, and
Montgomery.
Brett Montgomery.
Brett.
Now, there's 3 players. Again, another season where we're delisting players that did not even play a game of AFL football. So we're clearly getting this wrong when every year there's 2 or 3 players that we're delisting that just weren't good enough to even get a debut. I thought Montgomery was good enough, but clearly what do I know about football? So the problem's not just recruitment. I get that. There's an issue with development, and the club's addressed that. They hired more coaches.
Yep.
We need to improve our strength and conditioning, and we've talked about that on this show. We note that teams like the West Coast Eagles, who've had great problems with injuries, are out doing a global search for a new head of strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to attack it from all sides. It's no good for David Barham just
Yes.
to come in and go, well, all right, get rid of him, and him,
Yeah.
and then not deal with
Yeah.
what is fundamentally the core problem.
It's the total picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
anyway,
Yeah,
we did our
definitely.
rant
Yes, we
a
did.
week or so ago, so no need to go on about
Well,
that.
we did. And now, are we going to do a sort of a whole season review, or do you?
Yeah, so coming up on the show, I think it's fair to say,
let's relive
we
the
will
glory of
the highs and
first
lows.
half,
Yeah,
the first half.
We'll stop at about round 13, I think.
Yeah, and probably leave it at that.
Yeah.
But, you know,
We will be doing that.
Yes,
Yeah.
because there was some stuff to celebrate before the wheels fell
So
off.
we've got about 4 weeks or so to go before the grand final. We're going to keep the episodes coming thick and fast. Well, fast. Well,
Ish.
thick.
Yes.
Well, maybe not at
Yes.
all. We'll see. But anyway, there's no reason to not keep an eye out for Absolutely Essendon. We keep going where other channels stop. There will be no holidaying in Ibiza for us.
No, there's no off season.
So, yeah,
Damn
so
it.
a bit to look
Damn
forward
it.
to.
Yes, indeed. So if you can, if you're so inclined, hit that subscribe button. He's waiting for
We want to get to
massive things
1,000,
to
right?
happen.
And there's, I think we've got 70 more to go.
I think so.
70
Yes.
more to go, guys.
Yes.
Come on.
All right.
Even if you hate us, just press it for a minute. And you can unsubscribe a week later.
Just for a shit
Just
stir.
get us up to 1,000.
Okay, all right.
The rewards we get
Oh,
when it gets to 1,000.
massive. Life changing.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, are we gonna leave it at that? Nothing else to talk about?
I don't
with
think
that,
so. I think
game?
we've covered that off pretty well. And we just look forward. Oh, did you want to say anything about Waller and the boys leaving the field just before we wrap up?
Yes, that was. Thank you both.
To flip Andrew Phillips.
We'll say that. We'll say that again. I did notice.
Oh, I knew something was coming. Go on.
Well, Waller was carried off.
Yeah.
Andrew
right.
Phillips, not carried off. He just walked behind.
Oh, like
He
the
just like a
carrying the trail at
Just
at a wedding.
just a loiterer.
The train.
Yeah. So either A.
What, were they going to pop him up on Zach Merritt and Darcy Parish's shoulder?
Well, this is it. Well, this is.
They
it.
would have sunk into the ground.
Is that a reflection of the problems that we have that he couldn't be carried off? Like, is
Who was going to carry him?
Is he really that heavy? Like, come on.
Compared
He's
to
not-
our midfielders, yes, he is.
Well, who? Surely there's someone.
Because there
that
was
could-
no Draper there. I mean, if you had a couple
Right.
of the bigger boys,
Yes.
you might have been able to at least
No, come
hoist
on.
him off somehow.
Seriously.
Give him
Who
a leg
could,
up.
McGrath? No, probably
Oh,
not.
God, no, he would have sunk behind a blade of grass.
Menzie, maybe? Menzie?
No.
Okay.
You can understand why Waller got carried off, right? He got a little. He's a little.
It was just a little odd looking that he had to.
Now, I got to be honest.
Just walk off.
As much
Now-
as we love Flipper,
Yes.
he played 80 games of football.
Yeah, all
You don't get carried off for 80 games of
Is
football.
that not carry worthy?
I mean, he probably was standing there waiting for somebody.
But even the Collingwood did the whole Guard of Honour thing.
Was one of their guys celebrating a milestone?
No.
Oh, jeez. Didn't Darcy Parish play?
Actually, he was 150 games as well.
Slipped under the radar. Slipped under our radar.
Yeah. It did.
Shows you how much he's loved, right?
No.
Andrew
Come on
Phillips
now.
gets a farewell. No
Come
one
on
talks
now.
about Darcy
Will
Parish.
that deal be done? Or is that its own
Oh,
video?
apparently
Is that its
he's
own
staying.
video?
He's staying.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
He is staying, yep.
He's
You
just-
can bank on that.
Hold
Bank
it.
Zerk Thatcher's gone, though.
No.
Gone,
You
daddy
can't
gone.
say controversial things
Anyway,
like that just as we're trying to wrap
Our
up.
Trade Week episode is coming up. Let's
All
not,
right,
let's
okay.
not let
All
the
right,
cat out of the
okay.
bag.
All right, keep our powder dry.
And I'm still pretty confident that we won't get Harley Reid. So,
Okay,
yeah,
good,
remain
good,
confident.
good. All
All right, well, I
good.
think that's enough. We've
All right,
probably
that'll
said too
do,
much already.
that'll
So,
do.
guys, as always,
Yes.
thank you for your support throughout this season.
Yeah, very much so. Very much
Been
so.
a long one.
As always, thank you for the amazing comments. We always learn a lot as well.
We do. Well,
Let's
we
leave
knew,
it at
knew
that.
nothing about football to start with, but boy, we are well informed
I was
now.
coming off a low base. Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye for now.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.